It's hard to believe it's already been a year since we launched Gov360. 1 year in, and I could not have imagined how this thing was going to take off. Gov360 is now the most watched local government podcast in America. Gov360 is shaping the narrative for local government leadership. As I reflect on all this, what it says to me is that we are on a journey of real significance and meaning for others in the profession. It is a difficult time to work in local government, and having a platform that allows us to connect with one another and to remember that we are not alone has tremendous value. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode, because the best is yet to come. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the official launch of the Gov360 Community. I'm Chris Mann, and I want to thank each of you for taking time out of your evening to be here. Whether you've been with Gov360 since episode 1 or this is your first time joining us, I'm truly grateful you're here. Now, tonight is a little different than a typical Gov360 episode. We're going to spend some time talking about why this community exists. I'll give you a live tour of what we've built. We'll hear from a couple of friends and leaders I respect tremendously. And towards the end, we'll answer your questions live. My hope is that by the end of tonight, you'll understand that this isn't simply another website or another membership. It's the beginning of a professional community built specifically for those of us who serve in local government. As you're watching tonight, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. Tell us where you're joining from. We'll be keeping an eye out for your comments throughout the evening, and we'll save time near the end for your questions. I'd like to go ahead and introduce our guests. We have with us tonight Jeremy Smith. Jeremy is the mayor of Canyon Lake. He's joining us tonight. He's a good friend of mine. We met years ago when I worked for the city of Canyon Lake. Canyon Lake was my very first city manager gig, and we became very close. And Jeremy brings a perspective of an elected official who understands both the opportunities and the challenges of public service. And I'm excited to have him here tonight. Jeremy, thanks for being here. Sam Toles is also with us tonight.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it, Chris.
Yeah. Sam is president and CEO of Civisocial. Sam is one of the country's leading experts on local government communications and social media. He's the author of the Social Media Playbook for city and county managers and the Social Media Playbook for local elected officials. Sam, like me, is also a recovering elected official. He served years ago on the City Council of Cathedral City, California. Now, through his work with Civisocial, Sam works with local governments across the country, helping organizations build trust, improve communications, and navigate today's rapidly changing communications environment. Sam, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So this is exciting. I've been working on this for a few months, quietly behind the scenes. Gov360 hitting its one year mark a couple months ago. It's really grown beyond what I expected when I started out. But one of the things that I kept hearing over and over again from people in the profession was just kind of the human side, the challenges. I didn't really see that coming. I think when I launched it, I thought we were going to be talking a lot about the nuts and bolts, the technical side, the how-to of city management and local government leadership. And the episodes that have focused on the technical side have done okay, but it's the episodes where we really touch on the human side and the emotional experiences that have really resonated. And it seems like after almost every episode now, managers and local government people from all over the country, and even actually outside of the country now, one of our guests recently was a counselor, essentially a city council member in England. But the human experience across the country and across the world seems to be the same, and it is a difficult time to be in local government. That we're facing a lot of challenges in terms of public sentiment and what social media has done. In terms of just this kind of toxic environment we're in, and everything is so politicized. And as appointed leaders, our job is to implement the policy of the elected body. But it's harder and harder to stay out of the political fray because everything is so political, and very often we find ourselves in the bullseye and sometimes out of work unexpectedly as a result of politics, and as a result tenure has shrunk down to 4 or 5 years on average for a city manager, as an example. And so what I'm hearing over and over again is just this need for a community, for support, to come together and help each other and know we're not alone. In Southern California, I feel like we're pretty fortunate in that there are a lot of cities in a small area, right? And so there's a lot of support built in. But one of the things I've learned through doing this show is that throughout a lot of the country, it's not that way, right? Cities are spread out. There's a lot of smaller cities. If you find yourself suddenly out of work, it may mean that you have to relocate your whole family because the next city manager job is pretty far away, right? And so there really is a lack of a support system out there for city managers, and there are organizations throughout the country. ICMA, of course, the big one, but ICMA will be the first to tell you that their job isn't to represent the city manager, right? They're to stand up for the city manager. Their job is to protect the profession, right? And so, it just dawned on me as I've been going along that we really need community. And initially, I looked at LinkedIn. I thought, okay, well, LinkedIn is where we can kind of continue the conversations and connect, and it has been good for that. But it's all so public, right? It's social media, and I feel like people are still pretty reserved. So is there another way to create community? And I discovered Patreon, and over the last few months have been building this. But before we get into the nuts and bolts of Patreon and the Gov360 community, I'd like to talk with Sam and Jeremy. Sam, I'd like to start with you. Your work with local government nationwide have, I think, probably imparted to you just the tales of woe everywhere you go. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are and kind of this need for community and where something like this Gov360 community might fit in.
Yeah, it's absolutely, your timing is impeccable as always, Chris, and I'm so glad to be here. It reminds me, I was speaking to a group of managers at the Orlando ICMA regional conference this year, and I had the privilege of taking one of the ICMA senior staffers out to dinner with another manager. And I was sharing over this dinner and some drinks the struggles and the things that I hear from managers across this country. Now I've only been doing CiviSocial for a little over 2 years, and the person who shall remain nameless remarked, "You've worked with the managers you work with are they're the named, they're the superstars of the profession. If they're struggling, we have a problem." So I think that and what I said is, at least a third, maybe up to half of the people that have worked with, are looking to leave the profession or are in a position where their job security is in jeopardy.
A third. Wow. Wow.
Over a third. It's at
Wow.
least a third. And, just this last month, I know of 2 managers that I've worked with that have been separated from their organizations or in the process of being separated from their organizations. This has happened numerous times. These are extraordinarily talented folks. I mean, the people who are working with me are innovative. They're proactive. They're unbelievably smart and wonderful people and executives. But to your point, Chris, the political environment that we find ourselves in is extraordinary. And I say to my manager friends all the time, I say, my favorite movie is The Godfather Part 2. My favorite line in that movie is, "This is the business we've chosen." There is no job that I can think of, and I've worked in both high levels in the private sector and, served as an elected official. I can't think of a job that is more challenging at this moment in time than being a chief administrative officer, because that mixture of public exposure, politics, pay, and the variables around, from AI to social media, and the polarized nature of our politics has really created an environment that you need to be almost like a superhero, put on the cape. And the one thing I'll end this little note on is, I think that the thing that holds it all together, the secret of what makes managers endure, what keeps them going through, is this community of people, whether it's, here on Gov360 and what you're working on, whether it's conversations at the bar after a conference. People need that connection, because no one knows this role like people sitting in this role. And so it is just absolutely critical. I could not, Craig, congratulate you on the timing of this and wish you the best of success, because it's needed.
Thank you. Yeah, several months ago, there was a gentleman who I knew a little bit. You know, we'd see each other at regional meetings or conferences a couple times a year. But he was the city manager of a city, a couple cities over from the city I was managing at the time. And you know, he lost his job suddenly. It was kind of a surprise to everybody, and I hadn't talked to him about it, but I did episode 7 of Gov360. I kind of bore my soul a little bit and talked about, you know, a really rough time that I went through that caused me to be in transition, right? And he reached out to me right after that episode, and he said, "Man," he said, that is just what I needed to hear." He said, "I had no idea you were going through something, you know, almost exactly like what I was. I wish that we had known each other better during that time and could have, you know, been in communication and helped each other through that." And that, you know, that sort of thing that wasn't the only time someone's reached out to me with a comment like that. I realized, you know, my gosh, we really do. It can be incredibly isolating. You know, when you're going through something like that, you don't know. There aren't many people in your circle who even have a common frame of reference, right?
Nope.
And so, you know, I think this is really needed. Jeremy, so you've been in local government and politics in one form or another, really, I guess, the majority of your life at this point. Before you got involved in
Yep.
politics and government, your father was, and you got started kind of on the campaign trail with him and his city council races years before you got
Yep.
involved yourself. You've been on the elected side, you've been on the campaign side, on the political side. You've been a council member now for going on, let's see, 8 years almost, and have served
Hmm.
3 terms now, I think, as mayor. You've seen the, you know,
Yep.
the good, the bad, and the ugly of local government. And you know, so I'm curious. You know, when I shared this idea with you from the elected officials' perspective, what was your initial reaction to it?
You know, I want to make sure you guys can hear me okay. The audio is okay on this
Yeah, we
end.
hear you great. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So it's interesting that, you know, Sam, you bring up some good points, and you too, Chris, with the idea of the human element of our industry, right? And how we can be more relatable to that, just because of what we're going through on our day to day. Well, I was just asked by a colleague of mine in another city, "Why are you running?" And the first answer was to protect my staff. And
Mm.
it's such a different place, a different mindset, where now that I've been in public policy going on 8 years, and I've seen when we lose talent, when we lose people, me as a policymaker, I'm now running again to protect my city manager, to protect the staff that's beneath him, to make sure that we're providing a workplace that they want to work and share with their friends, to come to my city and to work. And I don't think I've ever had that before. And I think
Mm-hmm.
most electeds, you know, I hope they think that way, but it's a different time for our side of it too as policymakers, because the good policy that we make is only because of the good staff we have. If we don't have good stakeholder attorney and so on and so forth, we cannot be good policymakers, because the good policy won't be before us. And so it's just a different time, you know, that you guys talk about, 2/3 of the industry with the shift. I'm starting to see it on my side of the world too, that we're running to defend our staff. We're running to defend the folks that we're in the trenches with, so we continue the good policy that we're moving forward. And I think that's what's different about today's politics, at least at the local level, that I've never seen before, at least for personally.
I love to hear you talk about defending your staff, because I think so often that doesn't happen, right? I think, you know, especially in a public forum when you're at a city council meeting and you know, maybe someone steps up to the podium or online and someone's bashing staff very often with you know, really poor information, just misinformation, uninformed views, and you know, the council just sits there, you know, and I think they're afraid to step into the line of fire to stand up for their staff. And when I have seen a mayor or a member of the city council step in and say, no, wait a minute. Now that's not accurate and that's not fair. And you know, you want to direct your comments to me, leave our staff alone. Right. They're doing their jobs. Man, that's powerful. And the impact that has for staff to know that the elected officials they work for have their backs. It's huge. You know, I'd love to see more of that, frankly. So thank you for that comment. When I started Gov360 a little over a year ago, I really thought the interviews would be the most valuable part of that experience, and they have been. I mean, we've certainly had some really meaningful and impactful conversations, but the unexpected thing began happening after the camera stopped rolling. Really, like again and again, the conversation turns toward the same subjects: difficult council relationships, complicated personnel decisions, public criticism, political pressure. Suddenly finding yourself in transition, out of a job. And we say in transition. That's the nice way of saying you just got fired. For city managers, the loneliness that often comes
Right.
with leadership, and it didn't really seem to matter whether someone worked in a city of 2,000 people or 200,000 people. The names are different, the communities were different, but the challenges were remarkably similar everywhere. And those conversations really changed the way I think about local government leadership. And they reminded me that, while local government can be one of the most rewarding professions there is, and it is, I still love it despite its challenges. I can't imagine doing anything else, but it can also be incredibly isolating. And I kept thinking, what if those conversations didn't have to end when the episode was over, right? What if there was a place where local government professionals could continue learning from one another and ask questions and share ideas and celebrate wins? It's not all comforting each other during difficult times, but very few people understand what it is we do. So when we have big successes, we should celebrate that with each other as well, right? And yes, navigate those difficult situations and just generally support one another. And that's what I hope the Gov360 community can become for local government professionals everywhere. I'd like to now
Yeah.
kind of lead everyone through a tour of the Gov360 community. So I am going to share my screen here, and let's see here, right here. Okay, so this is the homepage of the Gov360 community on Patreon. You can find it through the URL, which is patreon.com/CW/Gov360, or you can just go to Patreon on the website or on their app and search Gov360, and you'll find it. But at the top here, you've got our latest posts, different collections, and I'll go into each of those things, the recent posts, and different things you can explore down here. But I'll get into those here. So where I'd like you to start is go to the Start Here button. If you're just joining, you're just looking around. I've got a welcome video you can watch, but I really want you to go over here to introduce yourself, right here. Click here, and come down here and leave an introduction. Tell us who you are. Tell us what city or county you're working for, you're representing, some of the challenges you're going through. Because again, the idea here isn't just a website to go look at. That's not what this is. What we're trying to do is have interaction, have engagement, have support, get to know one another. The next thing is go over to chats up here at the top. Click on this top Gov360 community chat. And again, we have some comments already. We opened early access to the community a few days ago, and people have been joining. We have about 20 members so far. I really wasn't expecting many people to join before this official launch, but I've been really encouraged. We've had city managers from all over the country. We've had department heads. We have a general manager of community services district. So people from all over the country and from different titles and types of organizations. So that's been encouraging for me as well. And so let's go into the collections here. One of the things that I've been working on, which I think will end up being big, is a playbook for city managers. Again, a lot of us do this job alone without a lot of support. So when you land that first city manager job, how do you navigate that, right? There's a lot that goes into that. And so what I'm doing is I didn't want to write a book and then just publish it and drop it on everybody. So I'm releasing this to the members of the Gov360 community, one chapter at a time. I'd love to get feedback, one chapter at a time. And when we get to the end, I'll put it all together and I'll publish it as a book that will be available to the profession. But I really love your feedback. So recently I published the first chapter. You can come here, you can click on this and download the first chapter of the book. It starts with before day one. right? A lot of people say, okay, well, what do I do in the first 100 days? Well, that's important, but there are a lot of things you should be thinking about and doing before you even get to day one, and we start there. So I hope people will find that useful and will engage and give feedback there as well. Resources. I want the community to be a place where we're sharing resources. Sam, this one right here, this book review might look familiar to you.
Yes.
So, this community is going to grow. I took some time to start putting work into it and loading work into it. So when people join day one, there is some value day one, but over time it will grow and will become more valuable. But one of the things I want to do is I want to give recommendations for books, give tools that people can use, just real practical, applicable things in their work. And so, I'll do a book review. This one is the Social Media Playbook for City and County Managers, Sam Toles' first book, which is a must read, by the way. If you haven't read it, read it and check out Civisocial. The work Sam does is really the most effective approach I've seen to dealing with social media for local government. I know that's one of probably the biggest pain point that all of us are experiencing. And tools. This is the closest to the information challenge. It's based on one of my most foundational management style books, which is Turn the Ship Around by David Marquette. If you haven't read that, I encourage you to. But and we'll take recommendations from the members too. If you have ideas of tools or books or other resources that would come in handy. One of the things I'm wanting to do, and this is probably a little bit of a longer term project, is I'd like to build a list of attorneys that city managers and county administrators, et cetera, can turn to during difficult times, whether that's on the front end negotiating a contract or when you get sideways with the council or you're dealing with defamation issues. But that would have to be a state by state thing, right? Because you have to be licensed by the bar of each state. So we'll be putting together a list of legal resources for city managers and county managers and administrators as well. We go over here to live events. One of the things that we're going to do is have regular live events. So you want this to be interactive. One of the benefits to this is personal interaction. And so we're going to have town hall meetings. We're going to invite some of the people who are guests on Gov360 to do, after the episode, to do live conversations with members of the Gov360 community. I'm starting a once a month series called Commute with Chris. I'm going to do that the first Wednesday of every month. I have an hour commute to work every day, so I'm literally going to go live. It's going to be probably through the Zoom platform, and it'll be an open discussion. We'll have a main topic to touch on each time, but it will be then open so we can all just talk and interact and support one another that way. So I have the first three scheduled: August, September, and October. You'll find that in this section, and then we'll be adding a town hall very soon as well. And then, as we have future episodes of Gov360, some of the guests will make themselves available to have discussions with our members as well. Off the record is another thing I've started here. So one of the things that I found is interesting, and I talked about this in episode 27 that just dropped, is that very often, I'm really trying to get emotional content on Gov360. I'm trying to really get to the human side of the work, but still some people are pretty guarded on the show. And I think there's just kind of nerves and being nervous and being careful about what they have to say, which, is smart. And then we stop recording and I kind of lean back and they lean back and all of a sudden the conversation becomes really interesting. Right. And the guard comes down a little bit and we have more raw conversation. What I don't tell everybody is I haven't turned the cameras off. And so, I've done this for 2 episodes now, where I'm careful not to post anything embarrassing. And if there's anything even marginal, I reach out and ask permission before putting it on. And so, Micah Gaudette, I know you're watching. Here you are on Off the Record. But that was a great little conversation we had afterwards, and I think people will find it valuable. I had Dwight Baudorf as well, who really kind of opened up after our episode. So those are the first 2, and we'll keep putting more of those in as well. the chats, the quips. There's a lot of ways to interact here and to engage, and I hope everyone will take advantage. So please go check it out, look around, join. I kept the membership really reasonable. It's not about, I'm not going to get rich doing this. I wanted people to have a little bit of buy-in. It's only $10 a month. I also wanted it to be private, right? And I don't want the general public on here. I want this to be a safe space, and so I thought that required being just a little bit. There has to be some little barrier of entry. Little $10, but please consider joining. I'm going to put the link up right here, so you can click on that actually, and it'll take you to the Patreon page to join if you want to do that. And we've had, as I mentioned earlier, good reaction. But I want to give a special recognition to our first members. Our very first member, on the first day I opened it up to early access, which was Tuesday of last week when I dropped episode 27, was Jeff Figenshoe. Jeff is the city administrator in Washington, Illinois. He's been in the profession for about 23 years, but he's just recently gone into a new city with a new mayor and going through those growing pains, right? And those adjustments with a new mayor who's kind of learning their job, and everyone's getting used to each other. And so he joined the community and just been a big supporter of the podcast as well. So Jeff, thank you so much. And the second member was Stephanie Jansen. Steph and I have known each other for a while. She's the general manager of the El Dorado Hills Community Services District in California. El Dorado Hills is really an exciting community to watch because they are going through the process of incorporation to become a city. So that's going to be fun to watch, and hopefully soon they will be California's newest city. And our third member was Chris Clark, Director of Parks and Recreation with King George County, Virginia. He is positioning himself to move into an assistant or deputy city manager or administrator position, hopefully in the near future. So hopefully the community can get in touch with Chris and help him along that journey. And then we had Ariana Adame, who's an assistant city manager for West Sacramento. Lawrence D. Ray joined, city administrator in Broadhead, Wisconsin. Bill Wagoner, city administrator in Arcola, Illinois. I've also just had a lot of personal friends and colleagues who've joined as well, and want to thank you so much for that support. Sam, it looks like maybe we lost Jeremy here. I
don't know what happened to Jeremy, but
he was having some connection issues, I think. But look, I think communication is so critical. This provides an opportunity to communicate in a more private way. But I want to get back to some of the conversation we're having before about the challenges that so many of us are facing. And I wanted, if you wouldn't mind, maybe talk to us a little bit about what. Now I know you've worked with cities all over the country. What mistakes you're seeing local governments make the most often that we can rectify.
Absolutely. Well, before I do that, I want to give a special shout out to Jeff and Steph, who are clients of mine and amazing people. Love both of those. Names, and what they're doing is truly cool. I got to spend time in both their communities. Really, really dynamic, awesome. And I will say about Washington, Illinois, I got to say it's literally the best Airbnb I've ever been at.
Really? I'll have to check it out.
Super cool. So if you ever visit Jeff, ask him where I stayed. It's cool. Super cool. Anyway, look, I think like every era, communications changes, and there is a learning curve and a slow ability for people to adapt. It happened, I'm sure I was not around, nor were you, nor was anybody on this podcast, but when the printing press happened, right? We hear about, Citizen Kane and all of the sort of like stories of the newspaper moguls like William Randolph Hearst and the infinite power that they controlled and what that meant for local governments. You didn't want to cross people like that because they could squash you like a bug. And then, the advent of television, the advent of radio. Social media, I think, is, all that probably on a little bit of steroids because we've created this open access, and that open access has done a couple things. It's eliminated or basically atomatized the source of information. When we were kids, it was, we had 3 networks, and if you were lucky enough to be in a large enough community, you'd have your 3 local affiliates that would broadcast the news, and we could trust them to some degree to be a reasonable arbiter of what was true and what was not. And that media ecosystem is no longer applicable, right? Social media has replaced it in large part. And as social media has evolved, it's brought with it a lot of challenges. I think the biggest challenge is misinformation and people who are, have agendas, have access to grind. They've always been there. I call them the STPs, the same 10 people. They existed before social media. But now they can create the impression, because they have access to a platform that they can express themselves on, they can seem much larger. They can seem much more present. And certainly, and I wish Jeremy was here, because, and you and I have both been elected officials. So elected officials are susceptible to feeling that these voices are being heard, that these voices are loud, that they're representative, and that it makes the elected officials crazy. That stress and pressure flows right downhill to the manager, to the staff. You've mentioned on your show moments where staff has been literally attacked by name by members of the community. I've heard countless stories of vendetta campaigns against managers and planning teams and code enforcement teams where, somebody just decided that they were going to go after these people personally and make their lives miserable, and use the power of social media to do that. So I think what has always been a difficult job, and what has always had a group of very engaged citizens that have, I think, always gotten an outsized share of attention, has just been given a megaphone, not just, but over the last 20 years has been given this megaphone. And the perception of these people has been warped among elected officials, and communities, I think, feel, the thing I would say as I travel across the country, as I speak on this topic. I was just in South Carolina to an overflowing room of elected officials and managers. I think there's a sense of helplessness, and my and my work, and if folks please check out the episode where Chris and I talked about this. We've done a couple of them. My number one piece of advice is you've got to you got to be a manager. You've got to be a leader. You have to take control of the situation. The thing that frustrates me is the sort of woe is me victimhood. Like, you guys are CEOs, and you have to fight back, and you have to do so not from a defensive crouch, but because the work that you do matters, because the community actually does value it, because you have to be proud of it, not just for yourself, but for staff as well, and for the community.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think it's been drilled into our heads, especially as city managers, that we're to be quiet, we're to be, behind the scenes, we're to stay out of the fray. But so I think sometimes that turns into kind of a victim mentality, right? I'm not allowed to have a voice, right? I'm not allowed to set the record straight and defend myself, or, be proactive about my communication, right? Establish a brand for myself. Let the community know, not just what I'm doing, which is important, but also get to know me as a human being, because, the more we humanize ourselves and the staff and what we're doing, the harder it is for people just to hate the faceless machine. And that's one of the things that I think is brilliant about the approach you teach with Civic Social, is we need to be telling our stories, because we're doing great work for the community, but the average resident has no idea who we are, right? No. And it's easy to not understand all the work that's happening, and you see one little thing that's out of place and you get really mad about it. But when you understand the people behind it, and that the people are working hard every day to serve the community and to improve their quality of life, and we're not just a machine, or we're individuals with families and dreams and aspirations, trying our best to do a good job. And I think that's critical, and I think the world has changed in that way. I don't think that the old way of thinking about city management was wrong for that time. But the world has changed, and I think our profession has been slow to adapt to that. I probably get in trouble for saying things like this, but I really think that organizations like ICMA need to adjust, right, and need to look at things like the code of ethics and come into the modern era, right?
Yeah.
Because the world has changed, and we can hold on to this idea of what the profession should be, but it's just not the reality anymore, right?
It's critical that we acknowledge that we live in 2026, and I'm so glad that Mika joined us as a viewer of this live, because the work that he's doing is equally important. As we, you know, social media is is incredibly important, and it's changed a lot of things. I was recently talking, somebody was asking me, what do I think, AI represents? And coming from the city of Buffalo, which was one of the first American cities, the first American city at scale to electrify. They had a big Pan American Exposition, the one that McKinley was assassinated at, but the celebration was all about electrification. I truly believe artificial intelligence is no less profound than the invention of electricity. It will be a part of everything that we do going forward. And so organizations need to be advocating for understanding and learning and just a constant adaptation to the world as we find it, not the world that existed 100 years ago when the profession was initially developed. Because it's a very different world. I was going back to social media for 2 seconds. I was talking to a group last week, and was expressing how social media is not Facebook, right? Everybody thinks Facebook is social media. It is a platform on social media. And
One
one
of
of
the
the
most negative.
managers,
Yes.
yeah, the most negative.
Right.
X and Facebook are these terribly negative platforms, but they
Hmm.
are, but if you look at the data, and I always encourage people, I know managers do this, like when they're preparing a budget or thinking about long-term planning, like the data is where you go to. So this manager came up and said, well, what data can you show me? And I'm thankful that I have a lot of friends in the media business, because it's where I spent most of my career. And I pulled out a graphic from my friend Evan Shapiro, who took all of the consumption, basically looked at consumption, not just on social media, but on all entertainment platforms. Like, where are the eyeballs today? And so when you look at it sort of in the totality, Facebook is still sort of in the middle of the pack. But then when you say, let's look at the 70% of Americans, which is age group from 13 to 54 years old, which represents 70% of the population. Let's look at them. The number one platform was the one you're watching this show on. It is YouTube. Very
Hmm.
close second, and this surprised even me, was TikTok. Then
Really? Oh,
Netflix,
yeah.
then Instagram. And if you can imagine this chart, it's like a mountain, like with the peak being YouTube, and then like a slow, sort of gradual decline to Instagram, and then you see a drop off. There's a bridge in the drop off, and that's Disney. That's Disney and Hulu and all of Disney's collective properties kind of
Hmm.
lives in the middle. And then there's this flatlands, that's still, meaningful, but it's like a third or a quarter the size of the YouTube attention ecosystem. And in that were familiar names: Paramount, so Paramount Plus; Warner Brothers Discovery, so HBO Max; NBC Peacock; and Facebook. Facebook lives in that flatlands with traditional media, right? And so as we keep our focus on this, like, oh my God, we have to fix Facebook, we're ignoring that an entire generation has left that platform because of the negativity, and we're deliberately not speaking to them. And so I just think there's so many opportunities, whether it's AI or looking at modern social media, for managers to be proactive and to say, as opposed to, oh, woe is me, the world is a dark and depressing place, to say, you know what, we're going to take these tools and we are going to make our mark on government by reinventing and by lighting a lamp going into the darkness and showing other managers the way forward. And that's why I love what Mika's doing. I love what you're doing. And of course, I love what I'm doing. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it.
We also love what you're doing, Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing. Thank you for that. Really, you're making a huge impact in the industry and in all of our communities. And I hope that I hope that I know you're already too busy. Somehow, I hope that every city hires you and starts to do this the right way.
I will figure a way. I don't know how, but maybe Mika can create a robot Sam that can travel. I don't know.
Robot Sam, I like that. Okay,
right? Robot
very
Sam.
Good. Very
Much more
good.
handsome than regular Sam.
Yeah, impossible. All right. Well, listen, tonight after we're finished, I'd really ask everyone, every new member, to make one simple post introducing yourselves. Please engage with it. This isn't just, again, a website to go look at. The whole point is we need to engage and get to know each other and support one another. Tell us where you work. Tell us what your role is. Tell us what you're hoping to get out of this community. That's really how great professional relationships begin. Let's see. Take a look at the upcoming events, at the calendar, and engage. Please join me when I do the Commute with Chris. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Check out episode 28 when it drops a week from today. I mention it because it's a really unique one, and I'm going to ask Jim, the guest, to come and have a live chat with us here on the Patreon. Jim Schutz is city manager, retired city manager, who has gone into consulting, but he just published a book called The Mayor Has a Hammer, and get this, it's local government poetry. When I first heard that, I just wasn't sure, but I got the book. It's really good, and it puts words and feelings to what we're all experiencing in a way that you have not seen before. I think it's going to be impactful. So that's going to be episode 28 a week from today, and then I'll ask him. I'll try to get him on here on the community so that we can have a chat with him live. Commute with Chris. The very first one is Wednesday, August 5th, 7:00 a.m. Pacific. I will send out a link to the Gov360 community members with the link to that. I'm leaning towards Zoom. It'll probably be on Zoom because everyone knows Zoom, and it's easy. Look for exclusive interviews coming up, downloadable tools, courses, book discussions, and future ideas. And I just asked, look, if you've watched Gov360 over the past year, and if you found value in the conversations we've had, and if you've ever wished you had a trusted group of peers to turn to during a difficult season in your career, or after a particularly grueling council meeting, or if you've just simply been looking for a place where local government professionals genuinely support one another, I invite you to become part of this new community, the Gov360 community. And my commitment here is pretty simple. I'll continue bringing you meaningful conversations, practical leadership lessons, valuable resources, and most importantly, a place where leadership doesn't have to be lonely, which it certainly can be. So those of you who are watching, thank you so much for believing in what we're building here. I genuinely can't wait to see where this community goes from here. Jeremy, thank you for joining us. Sam, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate you being here.
I cannot thank you enough, Chris. What you're doing, and I don't think you realize it yet, is so important. You're putting voice to something that I hear across this country. Keep doing it. Build this community because it is so necessary.
Well, thank you so much, Sam. I appreciate that. And, I hope it turns into something big that's a great tool for everybody. And if not, if there's 10 of us that are members and we form a community, that's great too. I just want to provide something that's a tool. It's kind of my way of giving back to the profession, because I've certainly needed support and have gotten support all along the way. None of us are successful in this career, or really in any other career alone. And so I hope this is one way that we can all come together and support one another. So thank you, everybody, for joining tonight. I hope you have a great evening, and I look forward to seeing you inside the Gov360 community. Have a great evening.